Hi, everybody. I'm Dale DeBaxi, and 11 years ago today, I wrote the very first entry into the Women in Science archive. It was a piece on Madame de Châtelet and her really incredible life and wonderful science. And here we are 11 years later. Thanks to all of you guys who keep reading, keep writing in, requesting new people to get inducted into the archive. And it's been the great passion and joy of my life to keep telling these stories. And just thank you so much for sharing whichever part of this journey you've shared with us. If you've been with us since the days of Mad Art Lab, if you've been with us since the Women You Should Know days or the WIS archive days, or if you've just joined in the last couple of weeks since we scattered over to Blue Sky, a abandoning the region which need not be named. Thank you for being with us and for chatting with us about the things that you love about science and all these incredible women who have done it. If you've gone the a little extra route and you've picked up any of our books, either at places where I was talking, or just picked them up online, thank you so much. The archive is free. It will always be free to access. I'm a teacher. I want other teachers and their students to be able to access it without any price walls. So the only thing that keeps the site running is royalties from any book sales that we get. So you're really helping us out. And if you're a superstar out there and you've left a review on Amazon or Goodreads, thank you. I love you. That is the thing which keeps our books out there and keeps them the algorithms mentioning them from time to time so that people can find them. So thank you for that. But today it's not about our books. Today it's about my five favorite women in science books ever. And some of these are ones that you could ask me any day, and they would be there. Some of them are, if you find me on another day, I might pick a slightly different list. But all of these are ones that I dearly love, and some of them are unquestionably any day of the year. I would say yes, that is the best. Um, get to it. So here they are. And I'm going to start with a really neat book. So this is Nina Gelbart's book, The King's Midwife, and it's about Madame de Coudray, who was a pioneer in developing sort of an organized curriculum for midwives in the French kingdom. She would sort of go from region to region, and she'd bring with her these instructional models that she developed, and texts with pictures so that illiterate people could read them, and just run through all the length and breadth of the French kingdom, demonstrating proper birth procedures on these enlarged models, some of which still exist. And this book, Gelbart really went through and tracked down her movements in minute detail so that we can tell the full story of her and this remarkable life that kind of spread from the era of the Louis and into the French Revolution, and how this woman just kept plying this revolutionary new approach to midwife education. And it's a really fascinating bit of history that we would not have known except for her researches. So it's a well-written book. It's a fascinating area, and I just love it. And, it's one that I could read at any point. You just say, do you want to read that book again? And I'll be like, yep, I want to read that book again. It's a good one. And it's accessible to anybody. Anybody can get into it. Slightly less so is my number four, even though these, I guess, aren't any particular order other than like where they are on the stack that happens to be next to me. But number four is Dwight Neuenschwander's Emmy Noether's Wonderful Theorem. And it's just such a unique book, not only because this one has the cover on backwards, which I appreciate very much, um, but it's a sort of book which does what I really like, which is when you don't shy away from really trying to explain fully what the person did. This is sort of something that you see a lot in women in science, that people people just talk about the lives, and for a few decades, that's what you got, is that they would talk about the lives of the scientists and not really go into sort of detail about what their science was or what their mathematics was, in a way that kind of builds up from first principles, what they were doing, and by the end you kind of get what they were doing and could explain it to somebody else. That's been my goal, with everything that I write, is I want it to be something that a high schooler can by the end feel that they understand, what this person did in terms of science. Neuenschwander really does that with this book, talking about Emmy Noether's conservation theorems, um, and just really building it up from mathematics, which is in the reach of somebody. If you've had AP Calculus BC, and you've had a little bit of multivariable calculus, Diffie-Qs, you can understand everything in this book. So it's, you know, something that a really motivated high schooler could make their way through and really understand just why her contributions were so important to physics. And it's engagingly told, and the math is really clear, and that's a pretty rare thing. So I enjoy it a lot, and recommend it to anybody I can who's willing to really get into the math a little bit. Um, the next one is one which I recommend all the time, and that's Brenda Maddox's, Rosalind Franklin, The Dark Lady of DNA. And what I love so much, first of all, it's just beautifully told. It is a gorgeously written book. Um, I adore it. You can see, I don't know, I probably can't pick it up on camera, but the amount of dog earring, I know I'm bad. But the amount of dog earring on this one is pronounced, just because there are so many passages that are wrought so eloquently. Um, and I love it because not only that, but because it does what I think is right with Rosalind Franklin's story, and it says like, hey, there is so much more to her to tell than just the story of DNA. That her other accomplishments are towering and really important, as a crystallographer. And if we sort of ignore them to just talk about the DNA story, we're leaving out some of the coolest parts of her scientific career. So this one really, it doesn't jump right to DNA, and it doesn't sort of end the story right away once the DNA stuff is wrapped up. It goes into her, work with Cole, early on, and then her later on work, with virus crystallography. And it's just a really gorgeous work that tells the full story of Franklin, and I like that a lot. Um, the next one is really two, because I don't have the chronology quite down on how this worked for me, but it's Marcia Bjornerud's, Reading the Rocks and Timefulness. Um, so at one point, I don't remember how it got started, but somebody said, you should really cover Marcia Bjornerud. Um, and so I picked up these books and I just devoured them. Earth science, geosciences to me, had not really ever caught like caught into my heart the way that like math or physics or chemistry or biology or medicine do. Um, and these books totally change that. Like the way that she writes about geology and geological processes is a grand, captivating drama that absolutely sold me, on this whole realm of scientific discovery, that I had sort of respected but hadn't loved before. And after that, I couldn't get enough. So these books, I'm so grateful to them for opening up a whole realm of science that I had sort of unfairly, for some reason or other, never appreciated before. And it opened it up and it showed me the drama of it and the beauty of it. So I will never stop being thankful for those books. And anybody who's like teaching earth science in high school, put those into students' hands, and you'll see quite a bit of a change. I put them into my students' hands when I can do it. And yeah, it is quite profound to see them going from it's rocks are boring, man, to wow, this kind of explains so much. There's this just massive drama being played out, chemical drama, being played out under our feet constantly and throughout the scale of the universe between planets and the orderings of the planets. And I love it. Um, So yeah, I can't rate those enough. I can't remember which one I started with, because they were just so compressed in time, but I loved them both. And that brings us to the person who founded it all. So for historians of women in science, we you usually think of it as like it's sort of a 1970s, 80s thing that you think of like Ogilvy or the Rainer Kahnums or stuff like figures like that who sort of devoted their careers to telling the history of women in science. Um, but really, our ancestral figure, the one who started it all for us, was Edna Yost. Um, she was devoting her life to telling stories of women in science in the 1940s. Really, kind of the only person doing that at the time, and for several decades after, who would not just write a book about women in science and then write some other stuff. Um, or like, happened sort of in the 90s and early 2000s, where you'd have people that wrote a trendy women in science book because it seemed like a popular trendy thing and then just never wrote one again. Um, she was regularly producing new books about this throughout the 1940s and 50s. I have some of the originals in the Women in Science bookshelves over there. This is just her 1947 American Women of Nursing. But there's a Women of Modern Science, there's an American Women of Science, there's a biography of Lillian Gilbreth that she wrote, and they're not hard to find. And they are our sort of founding documents as a field. So even though, it's not my favorite in terms of, the writing and sort of the balance of science to biography and that sort of thing. We've sort of learned some things about how to do that since then, but it is just so important. And she's a person that we have to just sort of tip our caps to and not forget that I will always give her a spot, just because, she started us all down the path, and we shouldn't forget her. So yeah, if you have a chance to look at any of those, just as a person interested in the history of science and how it's been told over the years, or just somebody who wants to start at the start, any of those are good. They're pretty readily available. People aren't clambering over each other to get these. It's just sort of the dozen of us out there who care about this particular subfield in its sort of early days. And that's that. I could literally go on forever, but I limited myself to five. And I've already gone way further in time than I had intended to. But if you're still here, I hope you find some of those, pick them up, and enjoy them because they're really cool. I love them a lot. And that's that. So we'll see you next year, I guess. I climb out of my hole kind of every year and then climb back in again. Um, so yeah, see you next year, hopefully. And in the meantime, keep sciencing. Bye.